Visualization expert named Ken Flairledge recently posted a really interesting kind of infographic and interactive um, demonstration data visualization of earthquakes. And I was really caught by where I saw the dots. Um, so one of the things I wanted to do, I normally just play with only healthcare data, um, but this was a real interesting thing for me. So I pulled the data down, and I'm visualizing it here using Click GeoAnalytics. And you notice there is no base map behind it. Typically, we would map things with the map, but I was really caught by where the dots were, and I think you can pretty much tell the borders of where this would be, regardless of whether there's a map there or not. And that was one of the things that struck me. So I thought I'd pull the data down for one thing so that I could do that. Also wanted to go ahead and animate this over time. So now we can certainly tell where this is. Before I press to animate this, I want to let you know the sizing is based on the magnitude of the quake. So the smaller dots are less magnitude quakes, like this little guy over here. The larger are going to be the higher magnitude quakes, and I also chose to color it that way as well. So for this particular case, what it's going to do is it's going to animate through now, decade by decade, rather than trying to go year by year and wasting a lot of your time. I wanted to animate it decade by decade instead. So there's different years within the decades, obviously. And again, the size and the coloring is based on the magnitude of those quakes. And so we can animate things over time to try to see if there were any patterns. One of the things I decided to try to do was just a little bit different. I wanted to animate again, but instead this time I want to aggregate those points. And so this time the coloring's much different. As I begin animating, it's going to be a very light yellow for the early decades. So these lighter colors are going to be an earlier year. The darker red is going to be as things get more recent. To try to see, looking at that animation over time, if we can see more of a pattern. Did the darker dots start appearing in certain areas than others? Is there a difference? Um, so the sizing is still based on the magnitude of the quakes, but the coloring is going to be based on that decade. So as it goes through time, the color is going to get darker and darker and darker. So that at the end of this, we could end up keeping it and seeing was there patterns? Are there places where there was an awful lot of quakes early on that there aren't anymore? So let me go ahead and stop that animation. If I remove what decade it's animating through, the goal was to try to see was there any patterns. And so animation within mapping through some dimension, like time, would be a good thing so that you could try to see if there's others. I didn't really spot anything that stood out, um, but the one thing, like I say, I was really impressed with Ken's work, and what I noticed for something like this was that I didn't really need the map, and that was kind of the key feature for me. That just kind of caught my eye. I thought that was kind of unique as a story. But hope you're having fun with Click GeoAnalytics, and you find data sets that may prove to be valuable, and you can do great things. One of the neat things is I can turn the mapping on or off. You can do animation over time or some other dimension. So hope you're having fun.